Thank you. Let's resume. We were on Chinese temples. Mr. Lam Chek-ting, you have some follow-up questions. Tanya just now asked about year 2006. Whether the secretary understood what was happening and whether there was any follow-up. And the secretary asked to refer to the verbatim record. Perhaps, well, the verbatim record can be read out by whom? Maybe by Mr. Lam. We don't, not all of us have the record. Matthew, did we not give the record to the other side? It's an unamended version. They could refer to it if they so wish. It's still a record. But it's not our practice to give it to them. Maybe it's a start. Yes. Well, it won't be good if we have it and they don't. Perhaps I'll ask Mr. Lam to read it out. Does the secretary have the transcript? Perhaps he can refer to it. But there are others who don't and they are listening. Perhaps it can be read out. Yes. Let me quickly read what Mr. Lam Chek-ting said in the second meeting on the 19th of May 2017. It was a question. He said was to the effect, if that is the case, then I have a question. Secretary said that there were negotiations referring to the HAB. However, the audit said that in 2007 there was no record to indicate that the CTC has followed up with Organization A. What does it mean, Chairman? That's what Mr. Lam said. Page number, page 101. Please continue. Prior to that, Secretary Mr. Lau said, before I took office, the committee had always been negotiating with Organization A, so when I took office, I was aware of that fact. It's on page 100. A reply from the Secretary. Please continue. Thank you, Mr. Chu. Well, there are a lot of people watching on television. Let me first give some background information. It's about a question I asked of Mr. Lau, the secretary. Well, there is an organization A that manages temples starting from 2006. There was no effective delegation agreement. The CTC, the Chinese Temple Committee, tried to incorporate new additional terms in the new agreement. However, Organization A opposed to it, and Organization A kept the donations and other income without having to account to the CTC. On top of that, Organization A and the ownership where the temple is located. In that, starting from 2008, because of this controversy, there was no record showing that there was any follow-up done in relation to Organization A. That is paragraph 5.7a of the audit report. In short, starting from 2007, according to the audit report, they did not see the CTC following up on Organization A. On the last occasion, I asked the secretary about this. So it's 5.7a. I asked the secretary, Mr. Lau Kong-wah, on a number of points, he emphasized that it had been followed up on. He agreed that in 2015 he took office as the secretary, and in the verbatim record, page 100, He said, Chairman, before I took office, the committee had always been liaising with the organization. So before I took office, I was aware of this fact. I have a question to ask the Secretary. You said there had always been. What do you mean? First, let me go back to the audit report, paragraph 5.7a towards the end. It says, there was no record to show that the CTC had followed up with Organization A since 2007. In our record, it's not the case that in 2007 there was no follow-up at all. In October 2007, a letter was sent by us, by the Secretariat, asking for the agreement to be signed in accordance with the Agreement 2007. And it can also be seen in the Annex 9. So when the audit said that there was no record since 2000, I meant in 2007 October, there was a record. Director of Audit, do you agree? We agree. Well, to be exact, starting from October 2007, it should read. I understand. Prior to October 2007, you were following up. Well, it was being followed up on. Last time when we asked questions, you said before I took office, the committee had been liaising with this organization. It means that in 2007, there was a negotiation or discussion, and then there was another discussion in 2016. That means before you took office, you have been discussing with the organization. I said that the last discussion was in October 2007. A letter was sent to them. And in August 2016, the finance working group sent a letter to them. So there was no discussion in the 10 years in between. And we agree with the observation of the Director of Audit. Sorry, last time, what he said could not have been interpreted in this way by anyone. It says that since 2007, there was no follow-up. And you said that is not the case. You have been liaising with or discussing with them or following up with them. Let me read out a few more paragraphs. Page 102, Chairman, since the organization was involved in some rural affairs, we, through the district office, has been liaising with them, discussing with them. Page 103, Chairman, that is not the case. I believe that in relation to this case, that is the refusal to sign the agreement, that was about 10 years ago. They offered a reason, that is, since there are different understanding in relation to the land issue, we have been stating what we think, and it involved some rural personalities and rural affairs. We had to continue with our district work, and we asked the district office to discuss with them. So to this date, it has still not borne fruit. Last time you made it clear that from 2007 till 2016, to our understanding, you have been discussing with them. My answer was very clear. At the start, I asked Well, since 2007, there was no record to show that the CTC had follow up with the organization, Organization A. You said you did in 2007 in October, and there was none afterwards. I think that's an honest answer if that was the answer given. But that was not the answer given. You said there has been discussion and there was record that could be shown. And I asked the Director of Audit, who said that they did not see any record. That's what was said last time. So what's your answer? Secretary, I pointed out just now that in paragraph 5.7a, it says since 2007 that that was not exact, and the Director of Audit admitted. And it would be more accurate to say since October 2007. And I would also like to point out the year mentioned by Mr. Lam. Please refer to page 106 of the verbatim record. Or even page 105. That's what Mr. Lam said. Worst. Well, it was interrupted by ourselves, by the Audit Commission as well. Page 105, Mr. Lam said was to the effect, well, Secretary, did you hear the reply from the Director of Audit? It seems that it was said that since September 2006 there was no more discussion. That was the first point made by Mr. Lam. Since September 2006, there was no discussion. It seems that the Audit Commission did not mention about the year in the hearing. They have been talking about 2007, and thereafter there was not really any discussion. Mr. Lam in the hearing said that after September 2006 there was no discussion. As I said, in October 2007, the Secretariat sent a letter to the Rule Committee about the discussion. And that's a fact. May I continue? On page 106, Mr. Lam asked, was to the effect, after September 2006, in the middle, there has not been any follow-up. And then page 107, line 7, that's the same. No follow-up after September 2006. We agree, for 10 years there has not been any follow-up. You may recall towards the end, in the last meeting, the chairman said perhaps we will have further discussion in the next meeting. So we collated the information, referred to the record, confirmed with the Audit Commission to clarify. So, for no follow-up over a period of 10 years was from October 2007 till August 2016. And there has been no follow-up, that we agree. And if you say that no follow-up after year 2006, it seems that it's not the truth. We followed up in October 2007. Please refer to page 113. After clarification with the Audit Commission, I asked the question again. Starting from 2007, there was no record to show that the CTC had followed up with Organization A. However, you said you have been following up on this. There is a contradiction. How do you explain that? That's back to point number 1, the confirmation with the Director of Audit. Well, the Director said that if it says there was no record since 2007, that is not too exact. Just now, the Director of Audit pointed out that if it could read since October 2007, it would be more accurate. Can I ask the Director to reconfirm? The Director has already answered. I have a question, Secretary. You mean October 2007, there was one follow-up. You could tell the Public Accounts Committee that you have been following up on this, albeit the next follow-up was in 2016. So there was one follow-up over a period of 10 years, and you could say that you have been following this up. Objectively speaking, you have misled the committee and the public.
Secretary, I didn't mislead. He was asking, the member was asking September 2006. Mr. Lam, let him finish first. You don't need to hurry. We have a lot of time. At that time, Mr. Leung, at the previous meeting, on nearly three occasions, referred to whether we had follow-up after September 2006. I said that October, I looked at the chronology, I saw that there was follow-up in October 2007, so I said there was follow-up. You don't need to hurry, let him finish. Anything else? The Secretary. And after that, in 10 years' time, whether there was any follow-up, the chairman said that that would be discussed at the next meeting. Now, the situation is this. Mr. Lam asked whether there was any follow-up after September 2006. You said that you had followed that up all along, because in October 2006, you had a document. But when Mr. Lam asked whether you didn't follow up, you said you had followed up all along. Anyways, we want to get to the facts. So you have amended that since October 2007, in 10 years' time, there was no follow-up. Before October 2007, from September 2006 to October 2007, you had one letter to follow the matter up. Chairman, I want to confirm with the Secretary that after September 2006 until the end of 2007, let me clarify this. Otherwise, he will try to find gaps between the words. So there was only one follow-up, which was in there was only one follow-up in 2007 after September 2006. The Secretary. Chairman, if you look at the chronological table, September 2006, we sent a letter to the Rural Committee. In November 2006, the Rural Committee, or rather, the committee, by circulation paper, agreed to extend the handling of the case. In December 2006, the CTC sent another letter to the Rural Committee indicating that we would refer the follow-up. And then in May 2007, the CTC also agreed on a term. And then in June 2007, a letter was written to the Rural Committee. If members refer to Annexes 7, 8, and 9, members can see that we have all along been following up the case. Chairman, in Jan 13, page 59, Jan 13, page 59, the 13th of September 2006, and then also 67, page 67, Jan 13, and then page 69, June 2006, or rather June 2007, correct. So from 2006 to October 2007, there was follow-up. Now, when did you give us Jan 17? Was it after the last meeting? 26th. When you first answered Mr. Lam's question, you didn't have the information. Mr. Lam asked you, how did you follow up? You said that you had all along followed up the matter. You based on this piece of information, and then later you provided this information to us. You confirm this. Mr. Lam, Chairman, if you look at my questions, page 99 was the first question. I did not refer to 2006. The first question I referred to 2007. I based on the audit report. There was no record to show that the CTC had followed up with Organization A since 2007. The Secretary, in answering the question, he said that before he took office, the Home Affairs had all along followed up the case, and he was aware of this. I want to ask the Secretary, anyone with a reasonable mind, any reasonable man, I refer to 2006. You should not say I asked a question in relation to 2006. That was the first question I asked you. In 2007, did you? I asked you whether you had followed the matter up. You said that you had all along followed the matter up. That was so simple as that. If you said no, instead, you said that I still had followed the matter up in October 2007, and then you should say that you had not followed that up since then, for 10 years. Instead, you said that you had followed the matter up all along. If you, since you said so, even if you didn't follow the matter up once every month or once every week, you should have followed the matter up once or twice, once every 2 or 3 months. In 10 years' time, you only follow that matter up once. Can you therefore say that you had followed that up all along? Can you say that you followed that up 10 years ago and then you followed that up recently, but in the past 10 years you had not followed that up? Then you say that you had all along followed that up? Now, Chairman, in the audit report, it was pointed out that in 10 years' time there was no follow-up. We have no dispute about it. Then in replying to members and the Audit Commission, we agree to that. No, last time you didn't say that. He did say he had all along followed that up, but in the audit, in answering the audit report, he accepted the statement that in 10 years' time there was no follow-up. We refer to the words he said at that time, and also we refer to the audit report, and he accepted that in 10 years' time there was no follow-up. But he didn't say so in the open hearing, in the public hearing. Well, whether he said something wrong or we misheard him or there was any misunderstanding, we now confirm the fact, and that is he accepted that in 10 years' time there was no follow-up. Nothing has been done in those 10 years as stated in the audit report. That is indicated in Jan 13. We find facts. There is a misunderstanding which seems that there had been follow-up in the 10 years. Now you said that you had all along followed the matter up only until October 2007. And since October 2007, there was no follow-up. Can you confirm that? Yes, I can confirm this. I said that from October 2007 to August 2016, the CTC didn't have any follow-up. There was follow-up in 2006. And there was also follow-up after August 2016. I hope that the witness, in answering questions, should be careful. this will not be favorable to you if you don't answer our questions clearly. Now we have a few more meetings and we are able to find the facts. We agree that in 10 years' time there was no follow-up, and before those 10 years there was follow-up, and you provided information in Jan 13. Chairman, if I may ask a few more questions before I close. Yes, okay. You can continue with your question. I hope that the Secretary can refer to page 113. I asked. I confirmed with the Commission, Audit Commission, and then I asked the Secretary. I asked, Secretary, how could you explain the difference between yours and that of the Audit Commission? They said that there was no record to show the CTC had followed up with Organization A since 2007, but you said that you had all along followed the matter up. How could you explain the differences? That was the conclusion. That was nearly the conclusion of the dialogue. At the conclusion, you didn't clarify that Mr. Lam, Mr. Chairman, there was one follow-up in 2007, and after that, then there was another follow-up in 2016. That was what I meant. Now, under the Home Affairs Bureau, if any staff member told you that Mr. Secretary, now you asked him from 2007 to 2016, people said that you didn't go to work, you didn't go to office, but your staff said that I had all along attended to office. And you only discover, then later you discovered that he went to office in 2007, and then in 10 years' time he didn't go to office, and until 2016. Do you think your staff member is cheating on you if he told you that he had been attending office for 10 years? Now the chairman asked me whether I could provide all the information. What information did you provide to the Audit Commission so that we can be aware of the facts? And then we set this aside. Now that was the discussion. The chairman asked us to provide more documents, and therefore that question was set aside. So we knew that we had a chance to provide our documents, and therefore at this meeting we provided all the documents to members. I don't want to spend more time on this. We have found the fact. I have asked the witness to be more careful in providing evidence. Now, a final word. Mr. Secretary, with regard to your reply, I found that your reply irresponsible, very irresponsible, and misled this PAC. If you had prepared all the relevant information and provided the facts, we wouldn't have this discussion today. It was unclear last time. You claimed that you had all along followed the matter up, or the Bureau had all along followed the matter up, but according to record, from 2007 to 2016, for nearly 10 years, there was entirely no follow-up. And if you admitted that at that time, instead of mincing words to try to mislead the PAC, the discussion wouldn't have taken place today. Well, Chairman, I have to respond to this. Mr. Lam raised a question. I responded that in page 116, the Chairman's view was to provide more information, and therefore we provided the information today. That's normal practice. Okay. We've heard the views on both sides, and we speak according to the fact. And we have, the most important thing is to find out the fact. As I've said, in the Audit Commission report, you accepted that in 10 years' time, nothing was done. You followed the matter up in 2016. in answering Mr. Lam's question, there was some misunderstanding that there was follow-up. Now you've explained the facts. He has that feeling. Chairman, I want to add, Mr. Lam pointed out the question in page 113. Since 2007, there was no record. But I said there was follow-up. What was the difference? And that goes back to the first point. At that meeting, I asked you to provide documents. We want to find out the facts, and the facts have to be based on documents. Now, I've already said that there was follow-up in 2007. Tanya, if I can recall correctly, the audited report was given to the audit report was given to the departments before they were published. Yes, the reports were given to departments. They confirmed that there was no follow-up. You repeated that many times. It's only today. We read the report. We asked for views, and this is the fourth meeting. And second time, we asked the questions in relation to the Chinese temple. Please go on, otherwise we'll have the fifth or sixth meeting. Yes, Chairman, we make good use of our time. I want to ask questions concerning the lease. We focus too much on N, and last time we asked question on M. Concerning N, the scouts. Give me a second. Chairman, can the HAB confirm, or has the HAB confirmed that in respect of lease granted to N, in respect of the supporting bureau, being the supporting bureau, the land used as a hotel, the land being used as a hotel is in line with the policy intent, and they agree. Yes, we can confirm this. Tanya.
The Director of Social Welfare 都係接受咗。
The Director of Social Welfare also accepted this. At that time, it was a hostel. It has changed hand, probably, and therefore I asked the question. Maybe the Lands Department can explain whether there's any difference between hostel and hotel under the lease. There is no big difference, in fact. 串法唔同咯，少咗個 S 咯。Now, according to 3.2a in 2015 concerning the canteen, the restaurant, now the fact is exposed or was exposed. Originally, it was for members only. Now it was open, and then it was open to the public, and the license is given. Concerning the lounge and also the restaurant, why there was no immediate action? When did you take action? Chairman, as I explained before, concerning the Western restaurant and the lounge, we think that is part of the guest house, and therefore it is open to the public. Now, after the exposure of the Chinese restaurant incident, when did they take action? It was a land matter. Now, the department was responsible for management. According to protocol, the HAB should initiate action and consult the lands department. Now, when before or after the incident was exposed, had any action been taken? Even before the exposure, in respect of the Western restaurant and the lounge, action had been taken, or action was only taken afterwards?
Chairman, with regard to the Chinese restaurants, after we knew about it, we immediately talked to the Scout Association and the Lands Department, and afterwards they achieved an agreement, and now they have finalized the arrangements. I'm mainly asking about the other two catering facilities. So lately, you've confirmed that it's an ancillary facility. So when did you take the relevant action to confirm that it's an ancillary facility, or in the beginning you already confirmed that it's an ancillary facility? According to 3.22 bracket 2, there other catering facilities. According to the Lands Department, the lounge is included in the approved building plan, and for the Western restaurant, it belongs to the hall. So are they permitted users? Well, in the Audit Bill, the HAB, in consultation with the Land Department and the Planning Department, is to review whether the operations of the Western restaurants and lounge are permitted under lease and the relevant OCP. So after the exposure of the Chinese restaurant incident, 2 years have passed. So have you confirmed it? Just now I've quoted an answer from the HAB, and they say that they are going to negotiate with them. So how's the progress? Secretary, according to the audit report, paragraph 3.27c, it is suggested that we should consult two directors, that is the Director of Lands and the Director of Planning, and see if these uses are permitted under the lease conditions. We have done that, and today the Acting Director of Lands has already given you an answer. So there's no follow-up action? We have already done our work, and we have also confirmed that this is an approved or permitted use. I also have an OZP here, but I didn't have time to read it yet. So is it a permitted use? Can anybody answer my question? Will the HAB talk to the Planning Department again? Can the Director of Audit give us a clearer picture for paragraph 3.27 and 3.22? Can you give us a clearer explanation? Well, for 3.22b, we suggest that the HAB follow up. And in the HAB's reply to the PAC, and after listening to the Secretary today, we understand that he has taken care of the lounge and the Western restaurant. It seems that they are compliant. Well, Chairman, how do you want us to follow up on this? Secretary, maybe I can make it clearer. The Director of Lands confirms this today, and the Director of Audit asked us to follow up with the Director of Planning. Yes, we've done that, but we haven't got a reply from him yet. Director of Audit, if you read 3.22b, the canteen at that time was not part of the hotel. The canteen was to be used by members of the Scout Association. So how come a canteen is changed into a restaurant? And in 1989, the hotel was given back to the Scouts Association. Well, there are a lot of information, and we are not too sure what the whole picture is. And then this leads to certain lease conditions. Can the Lands Department give us more information? And I think the audit should try to find out more. For 3.22a, the canteen operated as a restaurant. That's before the hotel was handed back to the Scouts Association. Before that, the canteen was only used by members. Well, Chairman, it doesn't matter. I'll continue to follow up. According to the OZP, the permitted users include canteens and cooked food centers. And then column 2 is catering facilities. But then it's converted from a canteen to a restaurant. Chairman, for that canteen, that is the underground one, and the one on ground floor, they said that is canteen, and then it's open to the public. In 2016, they applied for a planning permit from the town planning department. Yes, I think they changed the lease condition. Can you confirm that and tell us the whole story later? Because members' understandings are quite different. So please tell us the whole story, and then we will know more. History hasn't changed, but we need to find out more about the facts. Secretary, well, if it involves other departments, we can coordinate. Now, can you find out more about the original canteen? Yes, because I think they have the information. Chairman, I will continue to ask questions. And this is for the Director of Social Welfare. There are other 2 leases, H and J. And under paragraph 3.12, well, here are 4 leases, but I mainly want to talk about H and J. Paragraph 3.12. Under 3.12, the SWD is the relevant government department. I'm sorry, I may not know all the details. I want to know about the figures concerning the hostels. Now, have you received all the amounts due? Now, for H and J, well, last time I explained about this. We focused on the social welfare services, and we have been asking them to give us the relevant accounts. However, for the hostel, I think the Director of Lands also explained last time, because in the past the division of labor wasn't so clear. So for SWD, we said that for such hostels, they are not within the scope of social welfare. So for that part, we haven't asked them for the accounts. After the auditor's recommendation, we've written to the organizations concerning H and J, and both of them said that before the end of July, they will give us all the accounts information. I have a question concerning paragraph 3.23. So they will give you the account information, but how about the money? I think you should manage the money. Should the money be returned to you, or would you have to deduct money from their accounts? Chairman, with regard to H, actually we have talked to the 2 units with regard to H. In the past, They charged for the hostel rooms, and the income will be used on charity. Now they have a general fund account, and the income is to support healthcare, welfare, etc. And there's another fund for saving and maintenance. When we replied to the PAC last time, we also explained about this. As for these two accounts, they are related to the welfare services of the organization. And in the organization's annual reports and website, the relevant account information has been disclosed. In the previous documents, I mentioned this. Well, I'm sorry, for Chapter 1 is about quite old cases, so sometimes I'm not too clear. For paragraph 3.23, it's about two other cases. One is about lease G, and the other is about lease H. For G, according to the lease, it can be operated as a dormitory, and now is operated as a hotel for the general public, and it's been operated for 20 years, and now is turned into a service residence for students, local people, and non-local guests. Under lease H, the hostel had likely been used as a hotel. The SWD is also the relevant BD. So in the past or in the present, the property has been used as a hostel or hotel, but it's not used as a dormitory. So do you think this is in line with your policy intent, and are you satisfied? With regard to lease G, now it should be used as a dormitory. And now it's used as a serviced residence. This is not appropriate. The Lands Department has already written to the relevant organization. The organization made an application to the Lands Department. Well, because the units are used for training students in the hospitality industry. But we've looked at the lease, and we don't think it's appropriate. So the organization has now changed the service residence back into a dormitory. And we've written to the organization. We hope that social welfare services can be provided there. The organization agrees, and now is making improvements. In the future, if service targets have domestic or financial problems and they need to stay somewhere for a short while, they would provide this kind of service. So with regard to lease G, we have been talking to the organization and the Lands Department, and now the use is rectified. Just now you talked about some special circumstances. So does it mean that it can still operate as a serviced residence? So how are you going to handle it? If part of it is still used as a service residence, that is also a breach of the lease. In the past, they have done this. For example, there may be non-local guests or non-local guests or local people. They might stay here, and we found it inappropriate. We've talked to the organization. Now they have made a change. My question is that after making the change, will they continue to breach the lease? Now it's really used as a dormitory. After making changes, now it's converted back into a dormitory. So now they comply with the lease. However, for some of their acts, they may be breaching the lease. So have you been monitoring their acts? I don't think you have given me a very clear answer. Please give us a clear answer. Now they have made changes and now they are fully compliant with the lease. Chairman, about H is the same. Is it like what you said just now? Now, if we look at case 3, lease H, the hostel had likely been used as a hotel. So what is the condition now? For H and G, well, H is actually quite different from G. According to the lease, H can be used as a hostel, not a dormitory. So for its present use, it's in line with the requirements of the lease. Now, well, for table 5, that is page 41. For HJG, for GHJ, there is no rule as to not allowing the distribution of profits. So as to whether it complies with the lease requirements, the SWD doesn't know. For G, it's not an audited report. For HJ, have you looked at their accounts? Chairman, for H and J, it's stipulated that they have to submit the accounts. And we were focusing on the social welfare services. So the organizations would have to provide accounting information in 2 areas. First, about the subvented services from the government, and secondly, about the organization's financial statements. The statement has to be provided to us. With regard to H and J, they are social welfare organizations, and they have been submitting their accounts to us. In the past, we have not asked them to provide information concerning their hostels to us, but we have talked to the Lands Department, and Lands Department has written to them, and before the end of July, they will be providing the hostel accounts. For G, it's more complicated because there's no rule concerning the distribution of profits, and there are also other restrictions. So for J and G, you cannot control them. You can just give them a warning because of the lease, and you can only ask them to convert the use back to hostels. But how do you know where the money is spent? With regard to G, it's also a social welfare organization. And there are also subvented social welfare services. Now, under the SWD, if they receive our subvention, they have to provide us with their account information, and each year they would also have to provide us with the financial statements. So for the income from operating hostels and hotels, the relevant information will be disclosed in the annual reports, and such information can also be found on their website.
We can only believe that they would provide accurate information. I still have a follow-up question. We've been discussing about this for quite some time. For grantee N, it was granted at nil premium, and it was operated on a commercial basis. Subvention should be reduced gradually to the eventuality that no more subvention is given. So what about the other cases? Well, you can't see the accounts related to the commercial element. I have not read the leases because I don't know what they are. I don't know whether they obtained the site at nil premium. Perhaps you ask one by one. G, is it at nil premium? We have to be fair to Home Affairs. Social welfare will have to answer all the questions related to grantees NNM. Well, there is income. Do you supervise the use of the income, and did you reduce their subvention? First, grantee G, is it at nil premium? Yes, I think that is the case. Nil premium. Director of Lands, that's right. No premium. And in under permitted use is specified that it has to be non-profit making. It may be a commercial operation. They still have to show us from the accounts that the funds are ploughed back for welfare use. That's our suggestion to the Social Welfare Department. Did the Social Welfare Department look at the accounts? I explained that the accounts of the organization has to be given to us. We did not require separate accounts of youth hostel, but in the future we will. There is surplus. Do you check to see if the surplus is used in social welfare services? The organization publish its accounts every year. All the expenditures, there is the maintenance reserve account and also the general fund account, and they are all in the public domain every year. For G, H, and J, H is also no premium. Perhaps it's for the confirmation of Lands Department. It was 1/3 of the market value. What about the other one? J. I can't see that they have paid any premium. J is from a land exchange. Yes, land exchange at nil premium. Lands, can you explain under what circumstance will it be charged at 1/3, and under what circumstance will it be charged no premium? We just want to know. There is no hard and fast rule. It's for the relevant policy bureau to decide whether there is a policy support. But you enforce the policy, and the policy was under the Executive Council. Yes. The policy is not consistent. That's why it causes confusion. Now I move on. In the past few years, has there been a reduction in subvention given the fact that they've started to receive income? I will leave aside. I will leave to one side whether it's in line with the land lease. Unlike land lease N, for N there was a confirmation from the Executive Council because they saw that income would exceed subvention. So there was an explicit agreement in the lease that the subvention would be reduced gradually. For H and G, there was no such requirement by the Executive Council at that time, but they are all non-profit making organizations. So the use would not be for the reduction of subvention, but for charity use. I get more confused. Different bureaus or different departments will have different policy. In the case of N, they saw that the income would support a reduction of subvention, but the others are different. For some of them, they have to pay premium, and in others, there is a condition saying that subvention would be reduced, whereas for some others, there was no such term, but they are all under the Social Welfare Department, and there is no consistent approach. Table 5. Should we not ask for all information, say what leases charge no premium, and whether there are any terms in the lease stating that government subvention was to be reduced? Under government policy, well, they obtain something at no premium. However, subvention would be reduced, and in some cases, if it's done by land exchange, there was no need. Under 3.24, now I ask the IRD. Well, the Audit Commission is of the view that in relation to the 3 sites, the IRD should consider whether these organizations obtaining the profit should pay tax. In the audit's view, the IRD needs to review the taxability of the income derived from the commercial operations of the 13 sites for revenue protection. We'll refer to Section 88 of the IRO. Well, charitable organizations may engage in some businesses if they meet the proviso under Section 88, even if they make a profit. If they don't meet the condition in the proviso under Section 88, then they have to pay tax. Well, I will refer to the proviso under Section 88. It's difficult to comment on individual cases, and I think what's difficult is that organizations has made a profit. We believe that they are plowed back for charitable or social welfare uses, but it may not meet the conditions in the proviso, say for example hotel facilities. Let me find the proviso. Where is it? Page 10. The requirements under Section 88. So, in relation to the 13 cases, has the IRD looked at the relevant information to see if any follow-up is required? Well, one of them, as we've mentioned, is not a recognized charitable organization. It's just a company. Yes, that's M. So we have been following it up just like any other company. For the others, we use the review system, so a review in no less than 4 years. After the publication of the audit report, well, in relation to hostel, hotel, dormitory of the organization, we are checking to see if the requirements under the proviso are met. The proviso is that under the circumstance, meeting all these conditions, then profits are applied solely for charitable purpose and not expended substantially outside Hong Kong, and either the trade or business is exercised in the course of the actual carrying out of the express object of such institution or trust, or B, the work in connection with the trade or business is mainly carried on by persons for whose benefit such institution or trust is established. So apart from grantee M, have you followed up the other cases? Yes, we have. So that's what you refer to when you said you were checking the information. You would use what? Clearance sheet. We will follow it up. Well, we don't want to give the impression that we would like you to supervise or regulate these organizations. Because if you exercise control, then you will need to give them subvention. We would like to find the middle ground. Under Section 88, it says that the degree of control should not be so narrow that they can't make their own decisions. We don't want to get the blame. We want effective governance, effective supervision and regulation for the section to be implemented. We want to make it clear. I understand that they play a role in society. Well, they plow back the money onto social welfare use, but if you want to chase them back payment, it would be difficult. I pay tax too. In general, the profits are plowed back. The profit is not distributed to directors. As long as that is not done, we don't want your grip to be too tight. If you control everything, it's difficult for the organization to survive. Well, maybe I wasn't clear. The proviso says that the profit derived should mainly be used on charity. That's one of the main requirements. Can we finish at 12:30? I'll try. Just some final questions for the IRD. The most important thing is the status under Section 88. It's been a while. I can't remember clearly. Well, anyway, because of the audit report, would you review the situation? I only have one last question. You decide whether to give them the Section 88 exemption. Requirements have to be met. Some of them are stipulated in the law, and in some in the M&A there has to be terms. Some of these requirements are in written form in some other documents. You conduct review once every 4 years. You would review their tax exemption status. You would confirm whether there is an exemption or not, and I also see that in some cases you reinstate their tax exemption status. I find it quite confusing. There is also the legal advice sought in 2013 from the Department of Justice, and in between there was the Law Reform Commission's report. Would would you consider seeking advice again from the Department of Justice or review your power? Whether it is a new case, review, or application for reinstatement of the tax exemption status, we have always adopted the same criteria according to the law. If it is a charitable organization, basically it shall enjoy exemption from tax. In the audit report and the LRC report, they both mentioned that whether it is a charitable organization according to the law, if it is, then it is tax exempted. And it's recognized, it's not an approval, because they have been given this status by the law as long as they can show us. We will look at case law. We will also look at whether they meet the 4 criteria, whether it is a new case, whether it is a review. For various reasons, say for example failure to answer our questions, we revoke their status and they come back to us asking for it to be reinstated. In whatever case, we would adopt the same criteria to look at these cases. The audit report says that some organizations have done something that on the face of it is not compliant with the governing agreement. Well, it may not be appropriate for the IRD to look at the functions of these organizations, whether they are charitable, whether they are for the object of charity. The question about the law is targeted. It says a one-off incident may not prove prove that the organization is solely for charity. Under what circumstance would you consider withdrawing the tax exemption status? Last time you mentioned 4 criteria. Yes, 4 in the Audit Commission report and 5 in our manual. So apart from the 4 mentioned here, there is one that you've never used. What? No reply and dissolution. So you have not used other reasons to revoke the status. There is one that has never been used. Is that it doesn't meet the eligibility of tax exemption. From our experience, if we see that on the face of it, salary is paid to their directors, then we have to clarify in what capacity are these sums received. If an organization uses a charitable organization for its personal objective, then it is not in line with the object of a charitable organization, then we will revoke the status, but we have never encountered such cases. I just wonder whether these charitable organizations are profit making. Perhaps I will let Mr. Leung to ask questions first.
Dr. Chairman.
Okay. All right. After Kenneth has asked his questions, and we will give you the last bite of cherry. I have a question concerning paragraph 2.2 concerning tax exempting business. Tax exempted business, rather. I've raised this with the Bureau. under common law, what is charitable activity? A charitable activity is the advancement of education, a charitable activity under common law. The Commissioner. I have recently, in fact, not recently. Well, I don't want to name, but there is a music education fund. The purpose of the fund is to promote music education. But these music education funds are funds set up under business organizations or businesses. If the purpose of the fund is to promote music education for all, this is a charitable organization. This is not under Section 88. The school fees, the tuition fees so charged is tax exempted. Is my understanding correct? According to Mr. Leung, if a business has set up a fund and the fund applies for tax exemption, yes, if the terms of the fund and also the prospectus or their funding documents, if they can show that they are in line with tax exemption status, then they can be tax exempted. Now, it's reported in the press. Now, there are such funds. Promotion of music education is a charitable activity. But the tuition fees so charged are not affordable by ordinary people. The activities, of course, are in line with the objects of the fund. But if you give them tax exemption status, they will have a better tax advantage. And they will, from time to time, give management fees to the associated business concern. Now, the business concern which has received management fee will pay profits tax, but such a management fee may not be paid every year. Say, for example, this associated business concern is not operating very well in other businesses, and then it receives a management fee from the trust fund, and this management fee can offset its poor business situation, and it doesn't need to pay tax. From time to time, it receives a management fee, and in that particular year, it is having a deficit. As far as that business concern goes. So is this fund a charitable institution? Of course, it provides, sometimes organizes free music activities. And in fact, the tuition fees are high, and the middle class parents pay $3,000, $4,000 for their children to attend the music courses run by the music fund or music education fund. Now, in enforcing the IRO, you may not be able to do much under Section 88. Now, in terms of dealing with tax evasion, you need to consider whether the business concern is able to gain tax benefits arising from these music education funds. Yes, the point is noted. Yes, round up. Tanya. I'd like to thank the departments and bureaus concerned. Concerning the way forward proposed by the LLC, we may put them under both the report on Chapter 1 and Chapter 2. The IRD plays a very important role because some claims to be a charitable organization institution, but they are in fact doing business. This is a concern of Kenneth. They are able to evade tax, and this may affect the people of Hong Kong. The Home Affairs Bureau and the Lands Department have to pay attention to land matters, and we hope that the Lands Department will consolidate the information, say the lease, certain leases are related to certain bureaus, and they will clarify their responsibilities with the relevant bureaus, and then people can get away with it without paying premium or without paying tax, because the matter has fallen between two stools. I think this will be unfair to the bona fide charitable institutions. I thank the Audit Commission for the report. I thank the Director of Audit and also the officials of the bureaus and departments. As for the CIR, you've agreed to give us the letter of the DOJ. Those parts that are not related to chapters 1 and 2 of report number 6 can be blackened. We will not make this letter public. This is our undertaking, but we do need to see that document. I hope you will give the document to us as soon as possible to facilitate our report writing. Mr. Lau, thank you to you, and also thank you to the Director of Social Welfare. Thank you for coming to so many meetings. This is very important, in particular with regard to the charitable institutions. As mentioned by Kenneth, international schools are given land without paying any premium. They also have huge management fees, charge huge management fees, and many international schools have debentures, and only the rich can send their children to these international schools, and the poor cannot. We really want to clarify this under Section 88. And I hope that the departments will also look into this. This is the point raised by Kenneth. Thank you very much. We will not give our report to the government under the number 68 report. We'll give the report in October.